Welcome back, everybody, to That's My Time. I'm your host, Greg Aidala. I'm very excited for today's guest, my cousin Arthur Aidala. You'll be getting to know him in just a moment. But before I do that, I want to thank, as usual, my sponsors of the show. That's QUAIL Auto Sales. That's my family's automobile dealership in Albany, New York, which my grandfather started in 1943. I also want to thank Swag Island Tees. That's my friend Ed Stevens. He designs specific shirts to your needs. Check him out as well, Swag Island Tees, and also Next Evolution Media. That's my friend Bobby Chase, who does all the editing and filming. I've been working with him for 10 years. And also Coach Me Greg, that's my professional coaching services. All of those links to those businesses can be found below. And also, if you like my interviews, please subscribe to my channel, and I'll keep bringing them to you, and we'll have fun together. So enough of that. Let's get right into today's interview. I'm really excited for it. He is seriously New York City's powerhouse attorney for A-listers. He's also host of the Arthur Aidala Power Hour radio show in New York City, and we're going to get into more about him too. Please welcome my cousin Arthur Aidala. How are you, Arthur?
Yay, from one Aidala to another Aidala.
Yeah, it's good to see you. Happy New Year.
Happy New
Happy
Year.
New Year. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for your time. I know that you're extremely busy. And I'm just thrilled.
I always have time for family, Greg. I always have time for family.
See, that's the Sicilian in us. Other cultures don't get that. No, well, I shouldn't say they don't, but we always have time for family.
Some don't get that, and there aren't too many people with the last name Aidala who are asking to interview me. So you get special privilege.
That's great. Good. I'm glad to know that. So I want to get right into it because I know your time is very calculated, and you're a busy man. So this is cool. So let's get the audience familiar with it a little bit. You're born in Brooklyn, New York.
I basically live in the same block. I'm one block over from where I grew up. My dad, the Aidalas started in Manhattan, went up to the Bronx, Superior Avenue. My grandparents lived in the same apartment for 64 years. My dad stayed there. Then he got married, moved to Manhattan, and then he got drafted into the Army, and he got stationed in Fort Hamilton Army Base in Bay Ridge. And my other set of grandparents, they lived already in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn. So my dad went from being a Bronx guy to a Brooklyn guy. And I haven't really cut the umbilical cord. My mom and dad literally live up the block. My sister and brother-in-law, niece and nephew live around the corner. And my wife, Marion, and I and our children live literally like a half a block from my grandparents and a block and a half from my parents. Where my grandparents used to live is where my sister lives now. So it's everyone loves Raymond kind of situation.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. But that's what's nice. See, Italians, we're close, and I love hearing how close you are to your family because it's the same thing with my family. Like, as you know, I'm one of 8 kids. My father talks to all 8 of us every day, and my sister's twice a day. It's very important. It's very important to us. And I love hearing that close-knit family, how you have on the same block. That's incredible. I love it. I wish more people actually would do that, but that's old school, by the way.
I will tell you, as my parents are getting older, they're both in their 80s, having them that close on real quick. I had a crazy packed day today. And then 2 days ago, my mom told me that my father was going to lunch today in Bay Ridge, right around the corner from their home, with 3 of his old school friends. So you have 3 guys who are basically in their 80s who are going to have lunch. They hadn't seen each other in a while. So I moved everything around, Greg, so that I could just spin around there and be there for 15, 20 minutes to sit with my dad and the 3, his 3. One of them he went to law school with. The other 2 he practiced law with. And they were having a good time. And look, I know how I feel about my 6-year-old son and my 16-year-old son and the pride I have. And I would like to think that this afternoon, my dad's sitting there with 3 of his buddies of literally 60 years and have his son walk in who's achieved some level of success. Probably, I'm sure tonight when my mom is going to say, "Oh, God, he was so happy that you passed by." And what was it, Greg? It was 15 minutes out of my life. I rearranged some things, and it's so worth it. And that's what life is really all about.
That is. No, it's good. I know that your dad is thinking about that. No, that's truly important. And God bless your dad. I love, because my dad, he'll be 84 on New Year's Eve. So, we have that.
You mean he was 84?
Oh yeah, I'm thinking next year, 85. His big year was he was just 84. Yeah, I forgot. We're already in New. Yeah, forgive me. Yeah, he was just 84.
No worries.
So it's so great. Because that was one of my notes. Your father very successful attorney, very influential on your life. And we are truly blessed to have our fathers still in our lives. And speaking about, how we're blessed and heritage. So my grandfather, you've been to Sicily numerous times in Italy. My grandfather came over from Sicily, Italy. Catania, Zafferana is his town. And your grandfather has a great story, because back in the 80s, and my family, we'd hear all about your grandfather, Artie, who was this really famous boxing judge. And I mean, he was very influential, and he saw some great matches. He saw the Frazier Ali 71. He was doing stuff at MSG Yankee Stadium. And I saw when I was last fall, when I was in your office, you were showing me some memorabilia that you have on the wall, which is awesome. Awesome, great stuff.
Yeah, I mean, he will forever be the most famous Aidala, because he was a judge of boxing when boxing was the #1 sport. More than the NBA was nothing. It was really baseball. Football was coming up. No one could even spell hockey. But everyone, Friday night at the fights was a huge thing. And back in the 50s and 60s, I mean, almost every Friday night, my grandfather was judging a big fight. If you go on the website, BoxRec, BoxRec, like boxing records, and you put in my grandfather's name, I don't know, there's way over 200. I think maybe there's over 300 fights that he judged, and you're going to see names like Rocky Marciano, Joe Louis, Muhammad Ali. I mean, just the biggest of big. And Greg, through my whole life, when I was in school, think about it, in the 70s and the 80s, he was still judging, but even in the early 90s, when they would do attendance, many of the professors were like, well, Arthur Aidala, I'd raise my hand, like, you probably don't know this, but there was a very famous judge named boxing judge Artie Aidala, and I let them go on and on. I call him Grandpa. That's your grandfather. And even, there are even judges on the bench here in the city of New York who remember him fondly. And he was also a newspaper writer for a newspaper here in New York City called the Daily Mirror. So I was very proud when my wife gave birth 6 years ago to ask her and have her agree to name our son Arthur Aidala III, really after my grandfather.
Yeah, that's special.
Not after me. He's not a junior. He's named after his great grandfather.
No, that's great. That's a great story. So, just to follow up with that, is there one in particular favorite story that your grandfather passed on to you, or one thing that pops out, that he had an interaction, say with Ali or something of that nature, that you share, care to share?
Well, there's a couple. I mean, the one that stands out is how they wanted to make sure there was no corruption regarding the Ali Frazier fight, and how technology has changed. So if I have the story right, there was going to be 2 judges and 1 referee. So they told 3 different judges, stay home the morning of the fight. And I think 4 or 5 different judges stay home the morning of the fight, because nobody knew who was going to be the judge and the referee. And then the phone rang, and my grandfather got the call, like, you're judging Ali Frazier, which, Greg, was maybe to this day the biggest boxing match of all time, because of all the political ramifications, and Ali being stripped of his belt because of his position in the Vietnam War. And then I remember as a spectator sitting with him watching the Boom Boom Mancini Dooku Kim fight, when Boom Boom Mancini killed Dooku Kim. And I remember my grandfather commentating on that. I was blessed. I lived with him till really almost the day he died. I lived with him for a big hunk of time. We were very close. And those people, Greg, who came over from Sicily, and my grandfather was born here. He was like the last of all his siblings to be born here. All his older siblings were born there and then came over. He was born here. But I mean, they laid the groundwork for you and for me. And the car dealership you guys have, and my dad, the first one graduating high school, let alone college, let alone law school. We're just blessed.
We are truly blessed. And we also have that work ethic. I mean, we talked about this briefly when I saw you last fall, is, we grew up with Americanized sort of, but we also grew up with these European stories. And I think that sometimes that's lost here in American society today. So
generationally as well. I mean, you and I are about the same age.
Yeah.
And the younger people who work with me here now, I leave here, 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. I'm the only one here. And like, I'm kind of the boss. Like, they should be here trying to impress me. No, 6 o'clock, 5:30, bye-bye. Okay. I'll keep
Banker
that in mind when
hours.
it comes time next year for the end of the year bonuses, but
Bankers. I'll come in and fire them all for you. How about that?
thank you, sir.
Thank you. So here's last fall you were awarded, which I found interesting, the President's Award from the Brooklyn Bar Association. Congratulations with that.
Yeah, that was a big deal. And that's talk about age, Greg. When they told me I was getting that, I was definitely overwhelmed. I was very flattered. I mean, the people who have gotten it before me are really big names. And then the second thought that immediately came to my mind is I'm legitimately old.
Older.
It always goes to an older person. And I said that to the people who told me I was getting the award. They're like, no, Arthur, you just accomplished a lot at a relatively young age. So I feel good. Let's see what, I mean, I do the best I can every day. And that's really all, that's what my grandfather, Arthur Aidala, told me. I was playing Little League football. And I remember I was running after this guy and he outran me. And I was like all bummed out. I come back to the sideline and I'm like hanging my head. And my grandfather said, let me ask you one question. Were you running as hard as you can? Yeah. Could you have done anything more than what you did? No. He goes, Arthur, as long as you did your best, that's all you can ask of yourself. And that's kind of what I do.
You do, and it's great because that's a very important lesson. A lot of parents, espouse that, or grandparents espouse that when you really digest it and take it in. That's really what life comes down to. If you're given 100%, no one can refute that, and you're working and you're speaking from the heart. It's a golden adage that's so true in any generation. Just do the best you can. That's really it. And I saw also to that you had some company around you that night when you got the awards. I saw pictures of you with Mayor Eric Adams and Geraldo Rivera.
There was almost 700 people there. It was nuts. And then, yes, I asked Geraldo to present the award to me. Years earlier, he had presented that same exact award to Professor Alan Dershowitz. So I said, if Geraldo's good enough for Dershowitz, he's good enough for me. And I do have a nice relationship with the current mayor of the city of New York, Eric Adams. And it was very, very nice of him to come to this event. And obviously my whole family was there. My whole law firm was there. There was a lot of people there, and they raised a lot of money for the association, which needed it because during COVID, no one paid their dues and nobody was coming to events and no one was spending money. And, there's a lot of overhead to run a lawyer's bar association. So hopefully I did a little bit of good for people.
Yeah, I'd say so. You above and beyond with that. And also I found it pretty funny. I found a quote that which I really like, and I think it was from last summer's. There was a New York Times article, and which we're going to get it more into about how people think of you and the monikers they have for you. But it was Geraldo Rivera, and I love this. He said that Arthur cancel culture. He ignores it completely.
Yeah,
that was great because it might be our surname. It could be the Italian in us. I completely ignore this cancel culture at all costs and levels. I think it's ridiculous. I can't even believe that it was fed this much energy over the years. And I'm so glad that you're just like, that's out.
Listen, I am the way at least I run my law firm and I try to run my life is like I'm very meritorious. Like I don't care what color of the rainbow you are. I don't care who you're sleeping with. I don't care if you're a vegan or you like to eat steak and potatoes every night. What are you doing with your life? How are you contributing to society? How are you making this world better now than it was 3 days ago? And if you make some off-color remark or something like that, you're not going to hurt my feelings. I started losing my hair at 25 years old. I had buck teeth and I was in grammar school. They called me Bucky Beaver. Like no one's going to insult me, okay? I'm right. Unless you insulted my ethics, then that insults me because that's something I hold true to my heart. But Geraldo knows me very well, and Greg, I know you're cut from the same cloth.
Yeah,
everyone should be treated with respect and dignity, and we should support people and encourage people. Yeah, but they have to deserve it to some degree.
That's right.
It's not hard. You have to earn respect. You don't just. It shouldn't be automatic. Now, the way we grew up, 10 Commandments, of course you respect your mother and your father, right? That's automatic. But other people in life, you got to look at them and, hey, if you're gambling away your kids, your kids' tuition or the household mortgage, well, I'll have sympathy on you. I'll try to help you get to Gamblers Anonymous, but that doesn't mean I'm going to have the same level of respect for you that I would for your father, Greg, who's taking care of 8 kids and running car dealerships and is employing all of these people. So we just have to look at people for who they are and what they are. I'm not I only go in the voting booth and vote Democrat. I only go in the voting booth and vote Republican.
Right.
I go in the voting booth and it's like, let's see, this person is a Democrat in the Democratic controlled legislature. So he or she may have more of an impact on my community than someone who's a Republican. However, this Republican I have more respect for because they've accomplished X, Y, and Z. And then I'll make whatever decision I want to make. But nobody's going to tell me what to do or how to do it simply because I'm part of a team. It's not, no, I'm no intellect, but I'm a little deeper than just being a sheep, following the herd.
That's right. Yeah, no, it's a good way. And that's exactly, we are cut from the same cloth because I do approach life in that manner as well, to look at the character of people, no matter what they do. So here's speaking about character and character assassination of sorts. So here's what I can, what I've learned about you over the years, actually, and even watching from afar. You're very, very, very good at what you do. You're very good. And you have this reputation. First of all, you're a managing partner at Aidala, Bertuna, and Caymans. Is that how you pronounce it? Is it Caymans?
Aidala, Bertuna, and Caymans, yeah.
Caymans.
I think probably 100 years ago it was probably Kaminsky, and they made it Caymans.
Yeah, that's right.
And Bertuna is my wife.
That's right.
My wife's father, he's an immigrant. He came over from Catania at 12 years old.
Oh, nice. I didn't know that.
And he's doing really well. And you want to talk about work ethic? Oof.
Oh,
that fool around.
We'll I'd like to know that. We'll go out to lunch or dinner and talk more about that because I'm truly interested. I love that old school work ethic. So so here's the thing. You really stand up for A-listers, and sometimes you're known as like you stand up for tabloid villains, which I like that because that was actually from the New York Times article last summer. And there are some people just like me, or if they don't understand you or know all the truth or anything of that nature, that can loathe you for how you stand up for people, but you demand that right is right and wrong is wrong. And that's integrity. And that's what I admire about you. And here's the thing, from coast to coast, especially in New York City, but coast to coast, you are respected, and well-deservedly, as a very, very nice guy, because you are a nice guy. You're a nice guy in a business that everyone knows can be very dirty of sort, for lack of better words. But you really have this great success in all of your cases. Aside from integrity, wanting to know the truth, represent people so they get a fair American handshake, figuratively, at the law. What's your secret to success?
Passion. I mean, that's, passion, caring. First of all, I need to correct one thing. I don't achieve great success in all of my cases, but going back to the story I told you earlier about my grandfather, there's never been a case that I didn't achieve the result that I wanted to, where I laid in bed and I couldn't sleep because I should have done this, I should have done that. Now you always can second guess yourself about the strategy, but not about the work ethic. I never lay in bed and say I should have gone to the Giants game and I would have been more prepared to cross-examine that witness. That's never happened.
I see.
I have said, well, maybe I shouldn't have put that witness on, or I shouldn't have asked that question. But that's strategy. That's not effort.
Right.
It's passion. I mean, you can see right here over my shoulder. Okay, that's a photograph of a verdict that I took. And in my mind, probably that's the most successful case that I took to a verdict. And that was a crane that collapsed in New York City on a Saturday morning and killed 7 people.
What year was that?
2008 is when it fell, and I tried the case in 2010.
There
It
was
was
that
the
the east
first big
side,
crane.
up on the east
Yes,
side? Yeah,
yes,
I was
53rd
there
Street.
that day.
Okay.
Yeah,
It was
sorry, go
horrible.
ahead.
I mean, it was
Yeah,
absolutely horrible.
yeah.
6 of the people who got killed were the workers on the crane, and then there was a poor woman early on a Saturday morning in her apartment watching TV, and a crane came in and killed her. I mean, like a worst case scenario. And I worked so hard on that case, Greg. And when my client first came in, what do I know about cranes? What do I know about how a crane works? How is it put together? How does it operate? But you know what? I put on a hard hat. I went to crane sites. He educated me. I read a book on cranes, and I knew before that verdict came in that this was a factually innocent person. This wasn't someone, oh, there's not proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Like, he was innocent. And I was terrified of him getting convicted. And he had 3 beautiful daughters who are now all married. They were all teenagers at the time. His wife, we all became close. And that's the only time when a verdict came in, I cried. And it wasn't because I lost. It was because I hate using the term won, but he was fully acquitted. Now, I didn't cry in a courtroom, a good Sicilian. I asked the court officer if I could go out the back. I went out the back. I found a broom closet, and I went in the broom closet, and it just like my emotions just threw up out of my system because that was how committed I was. It wasn't like, oh, this guy paid me. Let me say what I got to say. Collect my check. What time is it? Let me go to lunch.
Yeah.
It was just the opposite. It was, and one night, and this was a mistake. One night I stayed in the office all night preparing for this expert witness. So I'm wearing the same clothes the next day. And I wasn't as good. It was a mistake. I should have gone home. I should have gotten a couple hours of sleep and showered and all of that stuff. So you live and learn. But to ask that question, a lot of people say, "Oh, I work harder than everyone else." I'm not going to be that, I don't know, arrogant, cocky to say I work harder than anyone else. I know I work hard. I know I put in a lot of hours.
Yeah.
But there's also this like internal, and we'll say it's like Sicilian Italian passion to like, and it's not about like, for me it's not about winning and like beating my opponents, which it is for many lawyers, and if that's what drives them, that's fine. For me, it's about saving this person, or protecting their rights. I mean, we live in the greatest country in the world, where even if you're guilty as sin, these procedures that we use to convict someone, they have to be maintained. It can't just be, oh, well, we saw the guy on video, he did it. Let's throw all the rules of evidence out the window. Let's throw all our constitutional rules out, rights out the window, and let's just throw him in jail forever. That's why America is great, because our founding fathers made sure that was not going to be the case. That may be the case in China or Turkey or other places in the world. But here, no matter how guilty you may be, you have rights that are protected, and the Supreme Court of the United States said you have the right to have a lawyer protect those rights for you.
Yeah, no, well said. It's spot on, and it's thanks for sharing that story. It's and I'm glad that you cried in a broom closet, because there's no crying in the courtroom.
Exactly.
All right, so listen, thanks for that story. That's great. It's actually an inspiring story. So thanks for sharing that. So let's switch gears, because we got a few minutes left. I know you're a busy guy, but I want to switch gears and let my audience know this is fun too. This is what I like about you and staying involved. You're very, as you mentioned before, you are a very passionate guy. Just being around you. I don't, people say that sometimes about me or my father or family. Maybe it's something in our genes. I don't know, but you're very, very passionate. You have this electricity around you that it's like this magnet. It draws people in, and I admire that quality. I do, because you're authentic. And what I like is you have this great radio show, the Arthur Aidala Power Hour show that airs. That's what's that? Monday through Friday, 6
Monday
p.m.
through Friday, 6 p.m. And I mean, I can cheat and pre-record it, but I really do. Really hard. I try to do it live, because I think I've been a radio listener my whole life, so it's not like something I just turned on. My mom always had the radio on with the great broadcasters, from Bob Grant and Barry Gray and Barry Farber and then Rush Limbaugh. But before that, I was 12 and a half years. I was the legal analyst on the Fox News channel. I was on, almost every day, for I know my own show, but I was on one show. Like Mondays was Fox and Friends, and then Tuesdays I would do Primetime with Megyn Kelly, and then Wednesdays I would do 2:00 in the afternoon. Thursdays was Shepard Smith at 3:00, and then Sunday nights I do Geraldo's show. And that was one unbelievable experience, and I'll always value it. I no longer have that position because of certain clients that I had, and that, all good things come to an end.
Yeah.
But just so people realize, like, yes, I was upset, but one door closed, another one opened, and basically I now had all of this extra time, and I grew my law firm from 4 people to, I don't want to count how many people are out this side this door, because it gets me nervous because I got to cover all that payroll. But it really has expanded exponentially. You've been here, you can see the size of this place.
It's great.
And then I had this opportunity just about a year ago right now, January of 2022. And to have this show, and I was nervous, am I going to find the time? But I do it right here from right where I'm speaking to you. They gave me that little Comrex machine. Sometimes I go down to the studio, but and I've had just some great guests, and look, I try not to just do the regular talk radio thing, like, let's talk about the White House and let's talk about Congress and let's talk about, I do, because there's plenty of that, and there are people much better than I am at that. So I dabble in that. I'm very serious about local stuff. So local politics, local policing, local fire issues, local sanitation issues. And then not long ago, I did a whole thing about Broadway. And what's the update on Broadway, and what shows, and this year, what shows are the hot ones. Then I did a whole thing on restaurants, and what are the hot restaurants. Every Monday I have an automobile segment right up your alley, right?
Yeah, the Mitsubishi, right? She's Mitsubishi, right?
Yeah, well, Mitsubishi is my sponsor.
One of the sponsors, okay.
But this woman, Lauren Fix, I think she calls herself the car chick. She comes on every Monday, and she does a review about a certain car, and the electric cars, the gas cars, and all this stuff. So it's 6 o'clock. People are either in their car listening or they're home cooking listening. So I keep that in mind. My whole goal, Greg, and I'm sure you're in the same boat, is to entertain and educate simultaneously. And it's the same skill set in the courtroom. When I'm talking to a jury, right? I can't just entertain them and have no substance, but I don't want to give them substance and their eyes are rolling back in their head. So it's that balance, and it's a similar skill set between being in front of 12 jurors or standing in front of a microphone speaking to the millions of people I speak to on AM 970, The Answer here in New York.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. It's a great analogy too. So we've got a few minutes. So let me ask you a couple things with the radio show, because I've done radio for over 10 years now, and it led into this show, which I'm thankful for after my campaign last year is running for mayor of Albany. And so here's the thing with your show, you have a favorite guest that you've done over the past year? Favorite guest?
Well, I mean, a substantive guest was Congressman Anthony Weiner gave his first big public interview to me. That was a big deal because, I represented Anthony. He was a client and he's a friend. I've had the mayor on a couple of times, and that's interesting because he and I have a really good banter back and forth. And then anytime Lawrence Taylor calls in, who I've represented and is a real good friend, that's always a lot of fun. But there's been, other people who I haven't known. They've been total strangers who my producer, Joan Pelzer book, who have been just really fantastic, and I've learned a lot from.
That's great. Oh, LT, number 56. All right, I got to meet LT because that was when I was growing up.
Man.
Oh, that was the guy, my brothers and myself. So that's great. How about a worst guest? You have someone that was, and you don't have to. If you don't want,
Greg, sometimes there's people like you got to pull, you got to pull the words out of them, and like I'm looking at the clock, and I have a commercial coming up, and then I'm like, all right, maybe we're going to end this a little bit early. Again, I'm thinking of the people in their kitchen trying to fry up some food for dinner, or the person stuck looking at a bumper of another car. I don't want them to go turn the dial. So, or say, Alexa, turn off Aidala. So I am, I try to be very, very cognizant of that.
No, it's good. That's the smart way to broach it. So, listen, I want to thank you for your time. I hope we could do it again later on in the year.
Whenever you want, cuz. Whenever you want.
I love it, and I'll be down, and I'll sit in on an episode of your show.
I may be coming up there because I think it just opened. There's a bar up there called the War Room. I think my friend
one of your friends.
Shapiro, it just opened.
Yep.
And I promised them that I'm going to take a ride up there. So 100%, I will give you a heads up, and maybe you could swing by. I can see your dad, and then we could go have a little bite to eat and some drinks over at the Wall.
That's a deal. That's let's do that for sure. And if you do come up, that bar is located just below the Capitol. at the
Yeah, well, he's a
foothill.
political animal, so that's the
Oh,
plan.
I know a little bit about him. Yeah. So I think it's great. And it'll be an interesting place, have all those war stories in there for politics, because it is the hub up here in Albany. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to hold you to that too. You come up, we'll take my dad out to
That's a
dinner and
done
we'll
deal.
go. So how can people learn more about your law firm and the
Well, I
show?
mean, look, I hate to say this to people, but it's the world we live in. Like, just put my name in Google. Just
I
put our
know.
name in
I
Google.
know.
Just put in Aidala, Aidala. I mean, obviously my website will pop up,
Yeah.
and then the Aidala Power Hour thing comes up, and that there's the Listen Now app on any of these devices, or on your computer screen, or you can ask Alexa or Hey Google.
Yep.
6 p.m. Hey Google, put on AM 970 The Answer in New York. Boop, pop right up, and you'll hear the show.
Yeah, that's great. No, good to know. I'll put all those links in the bio as well. So I want to thank you for your time again, Arthur. It's great
Yeah, I
seeing
actually
you.
have clients. I can see my secretary's opening the door. She's like, "You have clients here,"
I
so I got to go be
know.
a lawyer.
I know. You
I don't
go
just
be a
play one
lawyer.
on TV, cuz I don't just play one on TV.
I
I'm
know.
one.
I
I'm
know.
a
It's great. Listen, Happy New Year. You take care of that blessed family of yours, and
I
I'll
will
see you
back at
soon
you.
for sure.
All right.
All right.
Thanks,
Take
bud.
care, Arthur. All righty.
You will.
Bye-bye. That's my cousin, Arthur Aidala. Very, very big top attorney in New York City, and a great guy, great family guy to boot. I appreciate his time. So what we'll do is I am going to say thank you all again for joining me for another episode of That's My Time. Again, I want to thank my sponsors, QUAIL Auto Sales, Coach Me Greg, my coaching services, Swag Island Tees, and Next Evolution Media. To learn more about my 21-year entertainment career and That's My Time, this show, visit that'smytimeshow.com. So until next time, thanks so much for stopping by. I'm your host, Greg Aidala. I'll see you soon, everybody.